So today we're going to take a look at the Apache Tomcat, running Tomcat on IBMi. uh, Apache Tomcat is an application server, and I guess there would be the closest analogy is would be WebSphere on IBMi, IBM application server platform. It's a little bit different. The problem with using Apache Tomcat, it gets confused with the Apache HTTP server quite a bit. Um, the HTTP server on IBMi is based on the Apache version of HTTP server. At some point in time, I expect it will be completely one-in-one compatible as the IBMi moves more and more of its kind of server components into the open source world. Um, you may also be familiar with Nginx. Nginx is another um, uh, web server, not an application server, but a web server. And that's the difference between Apache HTTP server and Apache Tomcat. Tomcat is pretty much designed to serve up applications, typically servlets. And so, if you went to the Tomcat site at the Apache .org website, the uh, basically explains the differences between each of the Apache Tomcat versions that are out there. We've got 9.0 and 8.5 um, and a 7.0 as well. And basically each one of them adhere to a different servlet standard, which was established, been around for a long time. And we may have a chance to actually install a servlet, a web app, and have it run. But just to get the basics done, we're going to go ahead and install Apache Tomcat. It really couldn't be easier on IBMi. There's really two different approaches. Um, it's not a binary that you install with an installation routine. It's actually, in most cases, just a zip file or a tar file that you just untar or unzip and just basically load into a folder somewhere on your IBMi, and then you can run it. So that's basically what we're going to do. We're going to do 9 because IBMi actually has version 8 of the Java JVM is available. So we're going to go ahead and install the latest version of Apache Tomcat, which is 9. So um, we go ahead and, it says what version, and you can see here, you've got the option of a zip file, a tarball, a Windows zip. I typically just go for zip files. And even though there are some people who say you should never, we should rarely use a mapped network drive to do these kinds of things. And in fact, it will take a while if you use a map network drive and unzip to it. But we could also do a tar file. But the best way to get the tar file on the IBMi would be to use wget to get there. So we've got this guy installed, the IBMi Access Client Solutions. In order to if we were going to use wget to get it to and pull it down to the IBMi, we would need to have the wget binaries installed. And right now, if you were to look, let's go down. We don't actually have it installed. We do have it available. And so if we go down to get here, we could choose it and install it. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And basically all that's running here is just yum. It's a yum installer. And we do have our bash shell. So you can do wget. And it requests a URL. Where are we going to get the file, basically? And so the way to best find that out, and let's do a couple of things first. I typically use the optional. I create a folder called OPT, which is typical for optional programs. It's not a Linux standard per se, but I see it a lot. And so within OPT, we want to create an Apache folder, and then within Apache, we can then create a Tomcat folder. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, the answer is, if we were to look on my 7.2 system, I've got everything from Tomcat 5 up to Tomcat 9 installed, and that's because over time I've had different applications that require different versions of Tomcat to be installed. So I typically just leave them in place. Sometimes, just moving the web app from one Tomcat instance to another is no big deal. Sometimes you can have some interesting side effects, typically through changes in the Java virtual machine. So typically I just created a directory, a folder that's called Tomcat, and then each time I do a Tomcat installation, I go ahead and install it into the Tomcat folder, and I'll have multiple versions sitting there. So we're going to try something. Always risky to try it, but you can see here the URL that it wants is going to pull it from this mirror.metrocast.net. So we could copy the link and we can try this. We'll see what happens. Nothing like a live demo. Let me just kind of clean this up. There's going to probably be, we'll see. wget. Okay, so what it should do is pull down this Tomcat 9 .0.30 tarball and pull it down into that folder. So we're going to run it. And there you go. So there's that folder. So now we have to untar the file. So the way that we do that to unpack that tarred file is using the tar command. But I think the tar command for that's naturally available in Pays does not handle the GZ, the GNU zipped extension. So the way that we're going to handle that is first unzip the tar ball. So we're going to end up with an uncompressed tar file, and then we can go ahead and completely expand the tar ball after that. So the first step would be gzip. We want to decompress, and we want to decompress this file. So let's go ahead and choose that guy. Okay, so now if we do an ls, just to see what's in now we can see that there is just a tar file. It's not a zipped file. So now we can use the tar command to go ahead and untar this guy. And hopefully that'll work. Yep. And so now if we do an ls -l, okay, you'll notice that we have not only the tar ball that's still there, but we've also got a folder that has that Apache Tomcat name. And if we did a list of that guy, you can see that we have multiple folders there. So basically that's the first step. You just want to take the tarball, and in this case we got one that's already gzipped, so we need to unzip the file. So we just have a tarball, and then we expand the tarball and create the Apache installation, and that's basically it. But there's still some more steps that we want to take to get it ready to run on IBMi. Remember that we had Java installed. Um, I never know if it's -v or version. Okay, so let's, and we have Java version 8, so that is compatible with the Tomcat version 9, so we should be good to go there. Now we just need to set up a couple of things, and we're going to do that in using a different editor in order to make that happen. So we're going to use my favorite editor, which is Nano, to edit a file. And the file that we want to change is the catalina.shell file that starts up Tomcat. And I've just found in the past, although there's some environment variables you can change that would be system-wide, I've always found that just changing the specific Catalina shell file is probably the simplest thing to do, because as you upgrade and change versions, as we move things around in the system, you can end up breaking applications. And so, although there's an upside and a downside to each one of these approaches, we're going to take a look at a couple of things. So again, here's the listing of the contents. We're actually interested in the bin file that has, or bin folder that has the startup shell command. So we're going to edit that Catalina.shell, and we're going to edit that guy with Nano, my favorite editor. So let's go down here. So paging all the way down, I typically, and I've already copied this, and I'm just going to paste it in here right now, but these options I've had for many, many years. Um, for the home, the Java home I set, and in this case again, it's using the JVM, the Java 8 JVM. This, since it's copied, is incorrect. We now have OPT, and it's Apache, and it's Tomcat, and we're actually in 30. And then the rest of these are just settings that I've had for a long time. Again, been bringing these forward since probably I was running Tomcat 5. So some of these may no longer be valid. I think setting the Java version is not an option anymore. But anyway, that's really all you have to do, just to make sure that when this guy gets started up, we have the JVM correctly set, we have the Catalina home pointing to the correct place, and that we've got these additional Java options that I found to be helpful. Um, we've got some memory settings here that may or may not want to be changed. We'll have to see how it performs. But right now, that's kind of the basics. So we want to save this file, exit out. Now we could just go ahead and run this file directly and just watch it start up. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. And then I'll shut it down, and then I'll show you a different way of doing this. But basically, we're just going to start up the Catalina shell, and it's going to take over this particular pay or shell window that I've got open. So we're going to watch it start. Okay, perfect. So theoretically, it's running. Now, how do we test that? Well, we could look in the logs, see if it started. Usually, you can just do a smoke test out of the blocks. This guy is going to run on localhost at port 8080. That is the standard for uh, Apache Tomcat. So we could jump over to a, let's go ahead and do a 10. There's 140. See if 8080 is available. We don't know here. Let's go ahead and close this guy. See if this guy opens up. Okay, can't be reached. Could be many things. So we're going to test. We're going to check a couple of things first. So one of the cheapest ways to kind of check to see if port 8080 is running, if you've got a job running on port 8080, is just to jump back to, I love, the command line IBMi. The netstat command is one that you can use to find out what's running on ports. And 14. So we should see 8080 running here. There's some familiar ports here. It's MySQL running, but we don't see 8080. So that tells me that our command, even though it said Tomcat started, something must have gone wrong. So the next place to look, of course, are your logs. So heading back over to Bash, we can check our logs. And again, that's a subfolder of our main Apache Tomcat folder. And so we can just go here. We do an ls -l logs. We only have one file. Sometimes there'll be multiple error or output logs here. We just have one, which is catalina.out. So we just go ahead and use my favorite editor, Nano, to take a look. And right away, it's pretty obvious we've got an issue with Java. And so this is, again, I thought the Java version property might be no longer valid, and it looks like it is. But if we keep going down, we can find actually what the issue is, and it says that is not found. That is just a parameter that's passed to the startup of the JVM. So let us jump back then to the Catalina shell, and sure enough, taking a look here, beware copy and paste. And you probably caught this when I copied and pasted it in here. But what has happened is that the line wrapped, and therefore it is treating that minus XMX, the memory setting, as a separate kind of command without any context. So we're going to go ahead and fix that line wrap. So yes, now it's correct. It was also complaining that the Java version setting is no longer valid, so we can take that out. And theoretically, this should fix our problem. So we're going to go ahead and save that. Go ahead and exit. And again, your logs in Tomcat can really be helpful. And of course, in this case, it was perfect because now we can go back and actually invoke the startup again and see what it says. And so it says that Tomcat started. Now again, the only way you're really going to know is one of two ways. We could jump back over here and just take a look at netstat, see if we got it running. That is not what I wanted to do. Fat fingering function keys. There it is. Okay, so this is our indication. There's actually two ports that are listening that are of significance. This one we can talk about later, but this is the main port where the application is running. So if we go back, voila. So this is just your basic Apache Tomcat instance running. So we haven't configured access through the manager app, so we're going to get an error. If we go there, access denied, tells you how to fix that. Um, but this is basic smoke test, make sure that everything's running. And it looks like that we've successfully got Apache Tomcat running on IBMi, the latest version of Apache Tomcat running on the latest version of IBMi 7.4 with Java 8. So there you go. And walked through a couple of troubleshooting steps, and that is exactly what you want to do. You want to see real time how to fix your issues because very often you'll run into them. So hopefully this was helpful to you.